Meeting called to order at 5:32. Mr. Chair, you may take it away.
All right, well, this interesting meeting this evening, if we can get our farmer friend on to chime in, I guess, how does that, would come in on the same way we have, is that correct?
That's correct. He's received the link to the
Okay.
meeting. Forwarded that to him
Okay.
several of the time. So if he can come, he will. I hadn't heard anything back from him yet today. Farmers, as we all know, are quite busy people. So.
And it's good, decent weather.
Yes.
All right, so, well, then let's look at the minutes. Last muffed meeting, you sent out a note, and so would we approve the meeting's minutes from the prior meeting?
No, because the meeting was never officially called to order on the 16th of May. We did not have that. There's a set of meeting minutes from the 21st of March, but we didn't take meeting minutes from at the Farmers Forum. So it would be the March 21st Ag Committee meeting minutes would be the last minutes.
I move we approve those minutes.
All right, I'm pulling them up here just so I familiarize myself.
Hold on, let me see.
Okay.
I'll pull them up on the screen in just a moment. Just have to they made me change my town passwords.
Oh,
It
that's
has
all.
been 6 months since
Always
we
a bit of
last
a
changed our
challenge.
passwords. So we have to, it's just taking me a second longer to access this remotely.
Hi, are you going to be in here?
No, I'm just checking to make sure everything's all right.
Okay, I was trying to turn these things off, but I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, I don't touch the devices.
Okay.
I can get somebody in here to help you.
Just.
Well, I didn't print them out, I guess.
That's all right. One moment. I'll have them up on the screen just momentarily.
It's hard not to be looking out the window. It's a beautiful afternoon.
It
Yeah.
is, in fact, a gorgeous afternoon. That's correct.
When are they going to put a window in your office, Michael?
Well, I'm in the middle of the building, which makes it quite difficult to put such things in my office. But I'm looking for those minutes.
While we're doing that, there's a motion on the floor to approve the minutes. Is there a second? I gotta see, I did not look at them. And I don't even think I was there at that meeting. I have not been able to get to a few meetings, so.
Should have known it was you.
Melanie, I can't hear you so well. Or who was that was speaking?
There wasn't anybody.
Oh, it was somebody from another room.
I'm having trouble pulling these minutes up. How about we just table until meeting in June or July? We have our next scheduled meeting in July.
Okay,
Let's table those
that works.
for
I
now.
will throw my motion.
And make that notation.
Okay.
All right. So, are there any public comments? Do we have any additional public here with us?
Don't
None that I would know.
see anyone. I don't see anyone in the meeting room. There's no one waiting to enter. So I think public comment is over.
Okay. Well, then we'll move to the old business. And that has to do with the Farmers Forum, which we held sometime back. And I was able to be there and I thought it went very well. I don't know. Let's see, Ray was there. And
Oh, great.
sir,
I was not able to be there.
yeah. You were there last year though, Chris.
Yep.
That helps, that counts for something.
Okay,
Me-
good. Something. I'll take
Melanie or
something.
Melissa, were you there? No? Okay. All right. There were no minutes. If, is that correct, Michael?
Yes, we didn't take minutes at the
Yeah.
Farmers Forum.
Yeah.
But
We had in attendance, what, about 30 people, including
Oh, that's
two
great.
legislators. Seems like we had some farmer cooperative, town farmers.
yes, Mike Bergeron was there, Nate and Tom Wells were there,
Yeah.
we had.
Click was there.
From
Click had represented.
couple different farms, couple people on this committee. So anyone was there wanted to share some of their insights or think about things that went well or things that didn't go well for discussion. It's been some time. We've managed to, it's been about 2 months
Yeah.
since that meeting.
Well, from my point of view, I think that sort of thing is very important within the community, because not everybody attends these meetings, our committee meetings. And with good publicity, we can reach out to some folks that wonder about what's going on with farming. And in fact, this year, as compared to the one I attended before, we had two sets of farmers, or probably 4 or 5 people, but from 2 different farms. One was Tom Wells, and I wish we'd captured everybody's name, so I don't remember. So I thought that was good. Michael, that was your first one. What did you think about that?
So this was
the effort?
so I at the previous year's Farmers Forum and then at this year's Farmers Forum, I think we're encountering some good discussions. We're encountering some of the same problems with attendance insofar as I think staff, we do a lot of electronic communication, and we are finding that is not a particularly good way to reach farmers. We don't do calls
7, I think.
or hard copy
Thank you.
letters most of the time. But we think that perhaps sending out a flyer for a future year, taking our standard flyer and doing it as a mailer to the folks on our list may be a good idea. Especially some of the older farmers don't tend to be checking their email as much. And then in addition to that, trying to do some phone calls to folks, targeted phone calls to folks, that may be more helpful. We can get our legislators there pretty reliably, and a lot of the folks who are involved in promoting agriculture will get folks from Yukon Extension and from Willimantic Click and farmers markets. We'll get folks from the co-op. We'll get lots of folk involved in town programming and Yukon. And we struggle to get more than 2 or 3 farmers who aren't also engaging in those other programs to these events. And I'm wondering if that's if there's a way we can do that with more phone banking and things like that. But I think it's really good to hear the problems that farmers have that are what we're supposed to be bridging the gap on. But as for how we can do that, it's interesting. Some of the problems are above the town level, and that's why it's great to have the legislators there. Some of the problems are very much at the town level, like what Melanie talked about with planning, which is a mess of a problem at times.
Yeah, tabled, tabled currently.
Yeah.
Um, I guess I'm wondering if there's any like follow-up that this committee can offer afterwards when problems like, or when farmers do share their like struggles that they're going through at the moment, right? We say like we want to be there to help them. I know a big conversation was also about hemp and some of the restrictions on processing hemp, which the town can't necessarily get involved in. But even like following up with farmers after the fact to let them know that like we heard this issue and we're going to be considering it, or, you know, reminding them of the steps that we discussed that they could take, could be helpful in terms of making it also productive for them, or feeling like it was a good idea to go and kind of share what they're going through.
Do we have a written mandate or description or goal of having a farmers forum?
There is nothing in your charge that says thou shalt hold an annual forum, but within your charge, it is noted that you serve as a liaison between local government and local farmers, and that you try to promote education and cooperation wherever possible. So the forum kind of serves as a good place to hear about particular challenges and try to start to get eyes on them to maybe change policy or connect people with resources where that can be done.
To that end, I don't think we came away with any mandate to do something more or different. My sense is that was a good listening event for all of the participants, including the farmers that were there, as well as those of us who are committee type people. So in that sense, it's a good mix of just looking at other people in the eyeball and hearing a bit about what they're doing. Now, how does that extend from that group of people? What's the output? What's the was it worth all the energy in it to do it? Or did we just learn amongst ourselves? It just seems to me that maybe we can noodle on that a little bit more next time around, and perhaps put some questions or topics out as enticements for people to attend, and perhaps a wrap up, short. It's not a thesis, but a wrap up of some of the major topics that go back to the committees and groups that were represented around the table. What do others think on something like that?
I feel like I didn't go to last year's or this year's because of the timing with my teaching schedule, but the year before that I went, and that was when we had his name was Brian
O'Hara.
O'Hara, yes. And we had a really great turnout of farmers, just like, you know, not the people that are, you know, coming that you're talking about, Terry, but we had a lot of farmers that came because they specifically wanted to hear him talk.
Oh,
So maybe if we go back to the
Good point.
idea where we bring in like a guest person that is someone that they
kind of a keynote.
follow, right, as a keynote, and then it's also the farmers forum. If we go back to that, we might be able to draw more of the regular people in. Because there was everyone from like, just like your average backyard gardener to people that were, you know, doing CSA stuff and that kind of thing at that one. And that was specific because they wanted to come and hear him talk about his method of farming, and he was selling his book and like all that.
All right, I think that's a very worthwhile comment that we
I think
can.
that I kind of want to echo in on that too. I don't think honestly, I don't think the farmers are particularly interested in talking to us, since we don't have any authority or powers or anything. So I think it would be important to really have a keynote speaker, get somebody from the State Department of Agriculture, or get somebody from the federal. You know,
Yeah,
get somebody, you know, because to talk to us, there's nothing we can do. So except maybe pull, you know, politic a little bit. So it's, let's concentrate on getting an individual that's like a keynote speaker that can offer something. I mean, the state reps really took most of the, field, most of the comments when they were there.
Mhm.
And that's, that's indicative of just that people want to talk to people that can do something.
Yeah, or I mean, he wasn't really somebody that could do something, but he
Well,
does
at least
have a
it's some-
book.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he has a book and a way of farming that they wanted to talk to him about. So.
Right.
Okay,
Keynote
those
would
are-
definitely be good. In following up from Terry, the ag committee members who go to future meetings could try to take the comments and turn them into
Mhm.
actionables as kind of the guiding statement for the rest of the year of, call the legislatures and say, at our farmers forum, we heard this, right? We were wondering if there was an update, if anything new has happened, and anything pertinent for towns to know to distribute to our farmers, trying to follow up on some of that stuff with our legislators, stay appraised of that, or if it's a local issue, could be an item on our agendas to try to run with.
Good. Well, let's look at this again with those comments downstream for next year's planning. How is the date set? Is that something you do internally there just to
The date is set by whenever the folks tell me I can have Leonard Hall normally. It doesn't have to be Leonard Hall. It could also be the library, or another meeting place in town. Normally we have to work a little bit around the school schedule for if there's a break in March. We have to work a little bit around that if there's camps, but most of the time we get something early spring before people really need to get out and get planting and it becomes too busy. But the weather has broken a little bit, so it's not miserable and people don't want to just stay inside. That's why we tend to settle on March.
All right. So we need a trigger somewhere along in December or January to put our heads together and for the planning.
Maybe a little earlier if you're gonna try to get people to call. If you're gonna try to get a keynote, you need to do it sooner than that. Maybe the first meeting after the summer, if we have a meeting in September, that'd be a good time to start.
Okay. Could we put that on the September agenda then,
I
Michael?
don't have a meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. All right.
Great.
So
The other old business, Mike, is we have to formally vote a chair so we can move forward and get that all done.
That's true. So technically, we have no formal chair or vice chair. Melanie, I think, is not even technically formally our secretary.
really?
Though she has acted like that for quite some time. I think it would be good. Terry has been working as acting chair for a bit, but we should formalize some votes. Yes.
all right, then.
And-
Let's open the nominations of the Ag Committee members to serve as the chair of the Ag Committee. Any nominations?
I will nominate Terry to be the chair.
And
Terry
I'll
has been
second that.
wonderful acting in that role.
Are there additional nominations? That's an
Move the
awkward
nominations
position.
be closed.
I'll second that too.
Well, thank you for your confidence. By comments around the screen, then we can state that Terry Wallen will be the chair for what is that, for this year, and we'll look at it again next year. Is that, Michael, is that
I think
about
it's a
the right?
lifetime term.
Yeah,
We'll have
no,
to
so
get-
it would be until your time of reappointment or until you
Okay.
ask to step down, I believe. We
Hmm.
don't have to do chair appointment every year. But I'll check.
Yeah.
You're with it for a while now, Ted.
Yeah, I think stirring the blood now and then is always a good idea. All right. Are we ready to move to new business
Well,
then?
let's do the vice chair and secretary, get those out of the way.
Yeah,
Oh,
let's
okay.
do in either order. Vice chair is no responsibility unless Terry can't make a meeting. At which point I will email you to say, what do you want on today's agenda?
Okay, so we do not go through the process for a vice chair, but we do need to do the process for a secretary.
Well, we can do it.
No,
for
we
vice
can
chair
do, we
too.
appoint the vice chair as well. It's exactly the same. It's just there's not a whole lot of responsibility to be vice chair most of the
Okay.
time.
All right, let's open the nominations for vice chair then.
I would nominate Ray for vice chair. But I'd also be interested if anybody wants to nominate themselves. I'm not interested in doing it.
Mhm.
But if someone who would like to do it expects us to know that, we need to be told.
I
And
would
I'd
be,
be happy to nominate you.
yeah, I would be interested.
Okay,
Okay, good.
I second the nomination for Ray to be the vice chair.
Okay, nominations is on the table with a second for Ray Fricano
Yep.
to be vice chair for the Agriculture Committee. All in favor, say aye, or raise your
Aye.
hand. There we go.
I,
Okay. Congratulations, Ray. Perhaps you and I can consult a little bit before meetings and
certainly.
keep the ideas flowing that way, as we do with Michael or others. I mean, we don't have to. We get a little bit from talking to each one of us together. All right, then we need a secretary. Michael, you've been doing this in the past.
No,
Michael,
I think I've been
yeah.
secretary,
Melanie-
acting as
Melanie's been
secretary
doing
for
it
the
in the
past-
past.
Melanie's been acting secretary. I've only taken notes when Melanie hasn't been able to attend.
Okay, all right, there we go. So let's have nominations for secretary.
are you interested to continue, Melanie?
I might as well. Yeah, I don't mind.
She said she'd love to. That's what it comes out of here.
That's what I
All right.
heard. It's not quite what you said, but that's what I heard.
Are there additional
Distracted during the
nominations
meeting,
for
but yeah,
secretary?
I can be secretary.
Well, thank you for accepting the nomination. Now, are there additional nominations?
I don't think so.
Melanie, we got to get a job for you, or Melissa, I'm sorry.
Somebody has to be just a title committee. person
Okay,
Yeah, Melissa and I can watch
yeah,
And smile a lot.
and vote.
be the purveyors of issues out in the mouth around the community.
All right.
All right, then by acclamation, is that the right word? We will have Melanie nominate or assigned as the secretary for the Agriculture Committee.
Perfect.
Thank you, Melanie.
You're welcome.
Michael, just as a point, do you let the town manager know that who's the chairman of this, so we can
Yes.
have that?
So
Okay.
that I'm gonna forward all of that to the town, to the clerk tomorrow, or not tomorrow, after the weekend. And then that'll be on the report to the town manager.
All right, very good.
So now we
All
move to
right.
new business.
Then we go to new business, agriculture land lease request. Eagleville Green lease application from Tom and Nate Wells. I believe your packet included a number of good pictures from Tom and Nate for looks like the hay ground that they've been harvesting from. What kind of
Yes.
communication have you had, Michael, with them?
So I haven't heard anything from Nate today. Nate and I talk probably about weekly because of various projects he's involved with around town. The pictures, that's the update work for Southworth Preserve. So what I was showing you there was the scope of the project he's doing on the request, the application to lease the field, he had noted that there was a large amount of invasive Russian or autumn olive around the edges of the field that he needed to remove. And to get the roots of that, you really have to tear up the edge of the field. So about the 20-foot boundary at the edges of the field where there's been significant encroachment, he has been removing that. He's also been removing trees that are leaning over the edge of the field. This is something that we wanted to bring directly to the Ag Committee's attention, because if there's removal of trees, you should be informed of it. It changes the shape of the field, the edge of the field. And while invasive removal is definitely something that's allowed, we just want to inform you, show you the scope of work that's being done, removal of dead trees or leaning trees standing around the edge of the field. And if you have any concerns or anything that you'd like to stop, we can absolutely convey that to Nate. As for the land lease request, he is not here today, but the information of what they're requesting to do with the Eagleville fields, the about 10 acres of land over there, that has been included. There's a couple pertinent points, if I will summarize. The first of which is that they are looking to potentially grow CBD hemp on the land. Now, this is per discussions with the town attorney. This is technically just another crop, but there is a lot of regulation pertaining to CBD hemp in terms of testing of what you can grow. We've never had such a crop grown on town land before. And ultimately, it would be up to the comfort level of the Ag Committee and eventually the town council to see if it would be something that the town is interested in. So it is a political decision informed by the law and science. Staff, from what we understand, CBD hemp was made legal. It is legal to grow hemp in the United States after some reforms that were done during I believe the early years of the Trump administration, 2017, 2018. But because of the levels of THC that have to be monitored, there's substantial testing that has to be done. So we're not certain all the intricacies of it. And if there are questions from the committee that we could ask Nate, this could be a great time to field those. The other notable thing that he initially noted in his proposal was that the fields, the two large fields, are divided into about an 8-acre field and a 2-acre field. And there was a proposal in there to remove the woody vegetation area between the two fields, essentially remove, it's not a hedgerow, it's a natural vegetative area that you can drive a tractor between, but to cut that out and turn that small windbreak area, because that's really all it serves as, into more field, as that would allow for larger mechanical harvesters to be used on the land, since you no longer have to navigate between a narrow passway. Now that clearly changes the character of the fields a little bit, makes it a larger open space. Staff does not have the experience in understanding where we should have windbreaks and how large we should have fields be in Connecticut in that area before adding certain features that will make sure that we don't experience soil loss. So those are the two things that stood out to me. We know we have an email that came in from Diane Dorfer, which did voice some concern about the CBD hemp. So that's the summary that I can provide. And I suppose I'll stop talking and rambling like I often do.
Michael, could you provide the comments that we received from Diane Dorfer? I don't think I saw those. I'm not sure if we received an email
An
about it.
email that just came in just a little while ago.
Okay, let me check.
Absolutely. Diane's comments stated follows. After noting she was midstream on a project and was unable to attend the meeting, she noted that she was, quote, hesitant on CBD on town land. They would at least need to present all their permits from the state and or explain any exemptions. I do know that if the THC tests too high, the entire crop needs to be destroyed. If all the rules aren't followed, who is ultimately liable, as we are landowners? I wouldn't rush into this. That was the sum total of her comments.
Okay. All right.
They
then.
have some of their own land, am I right? I mean, they've got a lot of land. Or is it all pasture, their land?
What do you know, Melissa?
They
I
hay
know that
other
they have
people's
quite a
land.
lot of land, sort of on the backside of their farm that's visible from the road. But I don't know if it's hay fields. They do have their cows out, but it's along the road. I'm not sure how much behind the, you know, the barns and stuff is actually pasture versus, you know, haying type stuff. So, I mean, but they do have their own land, so they could potentially do it on their own land, not on town land. That said, I do know that they have a lot of land around town, not just town properties that they're utilizing, but also private fields that they have taken over and are using to, you know, do hay or whatever. I don't know what they all have, but right next to my house, actually, the field adjacent to me, they have a deal with the owner where they come in and they hay that. So, you know, I don't know how much they have of their own that they don't have cows on, but they do have some for sure.
What's the name of that road there? Is that Knowlton Road?
I'm on Wormwood Hill, but it's
Wormwood Hill.
where, yeah, when Wormwood and Knowlton split. Like, you know, Knowlton comes off of it and
Yes.
Wormwood jogs to the right. There's a big agricultural field that's privately owned on the right that surrounds a tiny cemetery, and that is the one they hay.
But that's not this one in particular that we're talking about.
No, that's privately owned. But they have a number of fields like that around town. I think that they have gotten permission because the owners that have it want to keep it,
Yeah.
but don't want to bother paying it.
It seems to me that there are several factors that impact our committee decision to or not to assign that ground to them. One is the legal, you mentioned, and I know there's a lot of discussion several years back and probably now some laws related to growing hemp. And how do we even know whether they're being followed or not? I mean, do we assume that the public authorities are aware of what these farmers grow and would know then that these farmers will be growing some hemp? That's one issue. The other issue is, do we, I think what you brought up, Michael, was a good point, and that is from a land use point of view. In other words, trees versus open ground for farming. Do our extension people feel that that's an appropriate thing for them to do? Sounds to me like it's a wise thing to do, but that I've not even seen the field, so I don't know
If you'd
personally.
like, I can quickly bring it up on the Axis GIS and just share my screen here so we can all see the land in question.
I have a question, because this land is, you know, town owned, so in theory, it sort of belongs to everybody in town. And I would imagine that they're based on other discussions that I have been able to be listen in on and partake in relation actually to that greenhouse project. I'm thinking that there's probably going to be a fair number of people in town that would be strongly against it. So, I mean, do we have to somehow, I don't know, put that up
Take that
for
into consideration.
discussion?
Mhm.
Yeah, into consideration for sure. I mean, I don't know what kind of houses there are like near there. I don't know how, I know nothing about hemp. So like, this is not, you know, I don't know if it smells. I don't know. I just know what other people were concerned about in the past, and that was one of the things they were concerned about. So,
Michael, do we
Committee
have
did
a,
approve, this committee did approve that
Right.
greenhouse now, right? I believe they did.
excuse me, I was talking when you were talking.
I'm
and
sorry, I
missed
just
what you
wanted to point
said.
out, I think this committee did approve the greenhouse. So
Yes.
we'd be
Yes, we did.
backtracking if we didn't. We'd be backtracking if we didn't approve this. Differences on town land, I understand that, but
I believe everyone saw my background there for a second, but can everyone see
Yeah, it's kinda
my
cool.
map we have now?
Yeah,
So the fields in question for those who are looking, so these are on the back end of Stafford Road. If you're heading south from the corner where South Eagleville intersects Route 32, you go past the fire station, down past Poorhouse, and you access it. It comes up rather quickly here, where there's a small field in the front here. It's only a portion of an acre, and then there's this winding path you can see here that goes over the railroad tracks and accesses this rear land. This is about 8 acres. This is about 2 acres. And these are the fields in question. So it's a little bit over 10 acres of land. It's the land in question here. As you can see, there are houses. So there's a house here, here, and here. This front field is the only one that's not divided by the railroad tracks and some natural vegetation around the railroad from the fields. To the south here, this is field that's recently been coming back into cultivation. The owner of this land has recently removed all the scrubby brush on it, and is beginning to do some cultivation here. But this is also separated by a small stream. The area in question that the applicant asked to remove is this here. The only way to access these fields is this, which is maybe 5 or 6 feet wide. As a result, you can't get much through there. There are 2 large trees in this, but the rest is low scrub. You can see the shadow of the westerly tree here. But it's not, there is a fair amount of invasive plant in here, but there's also, it is a naturally vegetated area. So that's the area in question.
and what the farmers are proposing is that they will plant all of this to hemp, or some of it will be corn and others hay, but what's their plan, or do we know?
Based on their application, it was not immediately clear to me.
Oh, yeah.
Whether or not it would all be hemp or whether it would be a mix of hay.
Then, Michael, do
I-
you have any more context in terms of what testing is required and what Diane was talking about in terms of destroying the crop if it tests too high?
So I am not an expert on this. What
I
I
know.
can say, my understanding is that there is an acceptable level of THC that can be present in hemp that is grown to be sold at market as CBD hemp. And if you test a portion of your crop and it comes back to have higher concentrations, then the crop must be destroyed because it could be used for marijuana purposes, which has a whole different regulatory scheme. I don't know at what phase that testing is conducted. I don't know if it's at the product phase. I don't know how crop destruction in that case is undertaken and how the land is necessarily seeded or reseeded. But I think that's a really good question. The heart of that question being, how much hemp would you grow? How do you ensure it doesn't go over these? What are your permits? What are your maxes? What happens if your crop does test to be too strong for controlled substances?
I'd like to just say I don't think it's a good idea, not because I'm nuts about it, but because I think other people will be nuts about it, and I think it in not a good way. And I think it actually could set back any kind of hemp farming by putting it on public land, because frankly, more people have more voice when it's public land. And I would encourage them to do it on private land and see how successful it is in terms of its neighborliness and its profitability and so forth. And when it becomes more normal, great. I also, in reading the application there, it was very, or CBD. So that's all they did there, CBD hemp, or I forget how they wrote it. But I don't think they're pushing for it. And I don't think we should spend any more time. My vote would be let's move on. We're not interested in the hemp, and I'm not interested in it because I don't think it would benefit hemp growing.
Okay, so we have, as I understand it, Michael, we have two issues here. One, do we accept their application to farm this ground? That's one issue. And the other is whether we would agree to their farming the ground with hemp.
And then the third, which I think Ray is raising his hand and Ray is muted, but the third is the modification of the field shape by merging those two fields. That was the other notable part of their proposal.
If I can comment on that one too, to say, I think that's great. We want them, this is what we've wanted people to do, to push back the edges and make, make the fields better on them and get rid of invasives and so forth.
Yeah.
So that's something we want to encourage. That there are a couple of, it appears, really quite large trees is too bad, but I can assure you there are really a lot of trees around, and they will very likely, I expect, use the wood, or maybe the town gets it. I don't know, and I'm not really concerned about it. But I don't think we should stop them from doing that. It would help them, and it would help a future use of that field as well.
All
Yeah,
right.
chances are the reason why the brush and stuff is there is because no one's bothered to bring machinery back there, and there's probably some big rocks or whatever that have prevented, and it's just caused stuff to grow up over time.
Yep.
So
So I'd love to have them put their efforts in and clear that.
So if
And
I
I'd love
was
to have them farming it. So for the first two issues, it's go. For the very quickly written or CBD, we just say, no, we're not ready for it.
I think,
I don't want to be contrarian, but I feel like there are a lot of questions about the CBD production that I would be interested in looking more into before we make a hard decision on the CBD, just because this lease is for 10 years. And I do think that we have the University of Connecticut in our town that's doing so much CBD and hemp research right now. And there's a lot of initiatives from the state government for producing hemp. I just want to make sure that we're not unanimously deciding no for the next 10 years because we just don't know much about it.
That's a great point. Yep. And I completely agree with you. And just to say, something like we're not okay with the CBD at the present time. If it was totally legal and cool and all that, then you plant it like you might plant corn. But again, I think it's just politically, and unfortunately the word is political in that case. I just don't think it's a sensible thing for us to jump into when he could do it on his own property.
I think
But let's not restrict it. Let's not say no. We can say, if you check with us whenever you want to do it, please ask.
Yeah, after
Our
he's
current
gone through
answer
all
is
the
no.
research, all the research, and I would imagine that liability wise, that Michael mentioned in the beginning, that, the town would have to look into that too.
I got the impression from the farmers forum that he's actually already growing hemp, that he's been producing
Great.
CBD products. So I guess my question is,
Yeah.
does he already have permits? Does he already have that research? I would be happy to, before our next meeting, try to put in some research or get more information from the applicants, just so we have a better idea. Does that make sense? I don't know if we can approve the lease, but say we're going to wait until next session to make a decision on the hemp, or if we need to be clear on the hemp use before we let them to access the fields.
Their plan as written doesn't call for any hemp planting until 2025. This year would just, I think, be a cover crop of hay, given the lateness of the year in which they would be getting started. So I think the committee would definitely benefit, Melanie, if you want to do some research and reach out to Mr. Wells. I can give you his email.
Okay.
And learn about what permits he already has, that kind of thing. And I can put in another word with the town attorney to find out about liability.
Okay.
From my understanding, the town attorney basically said it's mostly a political decision in terms of legally, there doesn't seem to be anything stopping us from approving it, but politically, whether or not it is acceptable is a council decision ultimately. I think they will listen heavily to your opinion if this committee's recommendations come with research done to explain,
Yeah.
here's the risk, here's what would happen in certain situations. Chris, you are on the council. You can probably speak to counselor motivations and their responsiveness to certain types of evidence better than I can.
And I can also reach out to some of the researchers at UConn. The
Great.
folks I'm working with right now are currently doing a hemp workshop that's going to take place over the whole summer. So I can reach out to them and see what more comment there would be from their side of things, and then present that at our next meeting.
All right, that's a lot of good material on the table here. So would we formulate a statement that we can vote on
Well,
that incorporates all of those steps that we need to go forward with, that the applicant needs to go forward with, and as we gather in more information? Sounds like we're not ready for a blanket yay go, but a couple of parts and pieces in within. Do we need to make a decision this meeting?
Yeah.
Well, the only thing is that, like, first cut hay is like now.
Sure.
So
Yeah, so-
if we wait, we're kind of messing that up.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
Melissa.
so I would like to move that we approve this lease and the clearing, and that we are not ready to we're not ready to okay with that. We're not ready to approve the hemp idea at this point.
I'll just amend that motion a little bit so we can say it a little easier, just that he would
Yeah,
have.
I know, it's a little
Let's
messy.
make him, let's tell him we approve the land, we approve the lease, we approve the Wind Road going away. And that he would have to make the application to us he would have to make a supplemental application to us. when he's
Beautifully
ready to
put,
move-
Ray.
When he's ready to move forward with the hemp. That way he can move forward. If he doesn't want to take the supplemental application crap, if he wants to just walk away, that's fine too.
Michael, is that an appropriate motion for us to consider?
We can do that, yes. I think the motion is technically it's is to recommend to the town council that this lease be approved, as they have to execute on
Okay, step one.
disbursements of public property,
All right,
but with all of Ray's terms. So it's the recommendation that the lease be approved with the allowed clearing of that area between the two fields. But that a reapplication with more information be made before hemp planting be allowable.
Okay, and are they to bring that information to the committee then?
I would think so. I would expect that
Okay.
to be something that we could
Alright.
do winter 2025.
Whenever they want to.
Yeah, whenever they want to. And Melanie, if you want to do the research
I was
in the
gonna say-
interim, so we can be forearmed.
We all might want to
Yeah,
keep our
I
ears
might
to the
just take a
ground on
jump on
that.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be helpful, Melanie.
Okay, great.
All right, so that's the motion. And if will all of us that are in favor of that motion,
We got to second it. I
Oh.
moved it, or Ray did. And I seconded, or he seconded, or is that
So-
fair to say, Ray?
I didn't mean to walk on you, but
No, let's have Ray move it because you've clarified it so much. I will
Okay.
second.
and then Chris, you second. All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye or raise your hand. All
Aye.
right. Looks like that's the way we want to move forward. And Michael, then you would be in touch with the Wells crew to
Yep.
tell them of our, and it might be that they can help elucidate a little bit on regulations and what the planning is with harvesting and what they're going to do with the hemp. What
Yes.
they would do with the hemp.
And I'll get them on the town council meeting as soon as possible. So that way the council can.
Be
look at
good
this
feedback for us all.
And approve
right.
it, and I'll get that lease drafted ASAP.
All right, good. I'm glad did we lose Chris?
No, he's just.
No, he's-
cameras
No,
flickering
I'm
on.
still here.
He's bouncing in and out. Okay.
All right.
Moving on then, Michael.
The only other thing we have to talk about, that was the majority of today's work. I just wanted to tell you about something. So we have a field on Coventry Road that has become very overgrown in the past couple of years. One of the neighbors, the gentleman who lives across the street, Mr. Jimmy Gailey, who some of you may know as one of the principals at Earth Dynamics, which is a construction and landscaping company in the area. He has offered to mow the field for us free of charge. And just take out his brush hog and his tractor and mow the field such that it's back in a not getting worse condition until such time as we can find someone who will be willing to lease it. We've struggled to find a lease for that field for some time. And so he wants to just restore it to be a field and let it grow into meadow. And then once it's back to that, he'll mow it, twice a year, and that'll be that. We don't think there's any problem with that. We've almost finished the language for basically a hold harmless agreement of if your equipment breaks on the land, you won't sue the town. If the ag committee finds that acceptable, to just have someone offer to keep it in working condition until such time as we can find a lessee, we'd like to go forward with that.
So I am very much in favor of the gist of it. If it's not going to be farmed, though, I think it's really it could be a great habitat field. And the best practices currently with habitat fields, if we want to do this, and it may not be what he's interested in, and I don't want to turn him away, but is to mow it every 3 years. And I don't know how many acres it is, Michael. How many acres?
It is not large. This is a 2-point something acre field. Right after.
But he's going to see, if he's interested in habitat and in birds and so forth and animals, he may be very interested in that sequence of things. The reason I asked how big it was is because another practice is to take a larger field and to cut a third of it 1 year, a third of it the next year, and a third of it the third year.
Right,
And just
that would
rotate
make some nice successional habitat.
exactly early, and brushy and so forth, which is great for creatures. So anyway, but I'm all for it in principle. If he's up for the other, and as long as it's not going to be farmed, then it feels like let's make it habitat.
If we can find a farmer,
Yeah.
I'll bring the lease to you, but until such time, I'll talk to him about the mowing schedule, if that's acceptable to everyone.
But that's not a turn away. You understand? It's not can only do it this way or no way.
Is that enough information to allow you to move forward, Michael?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
If I don't see anyone objecting.
Any
so,
other words of wisdom there?
Michael, what's his name again?
Jimmy Gailey,
Okay.
legally James Gailey, but his father is also James Gailey. So
Okay. How do you spell Gailey?
Galey.
That's what I have. Good. Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Other agenda items that
If anyone has comments on Southworth Preserve, they can submit them to me in writing or here. Otherwise, the only other thing is I included your charge. So this is one of those things that's always good to touch base on. why are we here? What are we doing? Why do we spend an hour every 2 months or so actually bothering to meet other than liking the people we're talking to? And this is the point of the commission. It's why it was created. You have a charge that entails a point of education, outreach, and enabling economic opportunities. I put this in here in a way just to kind of kickstart. If you have ideas of more that we could be doing, maybe this will spark some thoughts of events we could hold or the kinds of programs we want to champion. I know we're all very busy people, but the I Committee could always use an initiative other than the Farmers Forum and our leases to champion. Even if it's not a now thing, as we get very busy with the growing season, we'd love to come up with ideas. So just there for a springboard.
Yeah,
That's
I
great.
see that. Chris?
No, thank you for doing that, Michael. That's a great idea.
Yeah. Let's all commit to reading that very carefully. And if there are comments, note them for next time and we'll raise it again, if you would, Michael, do you want to, do we need to?
Let's put that on the agenda.
that-
But I would suggest, I haven't looked at it yet, except to notice it was there. Maybe just do it in sections. And have a section be the subject of each meeting coming up. So we don't spend an inordinate amount of time struggling through the whole thing in any one meeting. Just over
Right.
time, we spend an inordinate amount of time doing that.
But it's spread out, so it's an ordinate amount of time when
Yeah.
broken up into pieces.
Shorter words, better way.
Yeah, I like that idea.
All right,
Great.
and we'll have that on the agenda for next time to have us to have reviewed and ready for comments discussion.
Great.
All right. That brings us down to any reports from members here that anybody want to, Ray, you're on.
I got 2 points just to have to be decided now. The town manager invited all the chairpersons to attend the meeting for a sustainable CT. Since you're the chairperson, the meeting's on June 12th. Are you available June 12th, do you know?
Probably.
At 5:30, it's a dinner meeting. The people from the state will be in here. I can explain off after the meeting what it's all
Would
about.
would you send information to me?
I will send information to you. If you can attend, I'll send information and I'll tell
Or
you
if
what.
my calendar says I'm in town.
All right. Because I'm attending, but for another committee, so I.
Yeah,
didn't wanna
okay,
do it
I'll
for-
look forward to receiving that information from you.
Is anybody else interested in attending a meeting for a sustainable CT? I probably don't even know what it is, but
Well, we could all kind of imagine.
I'll send it to
giving that
everyone, I
name.
guess, and they can decide.
Yeah, all
Just
right,
wanted to make sure one person does.
all right.
The thing is, there's a summer stroll on short notice, May 30th. And the Taste of Mansfield wants some people to man their table. So if anybody's interested in doing that, I'll be doing it. I don't think we need much more than that, but I just wanted to mention it, that we were asked to help man the summer stroll table from 5 to 7 on May 30th. Which is
Sorry, what is that called, Ray? The summer what?
stroll,
Stroll?
STROLL.
Is that a
Okay.
town event? I've not.
Yeah, it's a town event.
not-
Chris, can you enlighten us on that, or?
I think I'm setting up. I've got that in my calendar for next Thursday, 4:35. I'll be down in Mansfield Center setting up the Taste of Mansfield table. If anybody wants
There
to
you
come.
are. Yep. So I'll put that out in the other email, because I don't want to drag this out.
Okay. Other comments? Chris, you looks like you're ready to go.
Yeah, actually got another meeting to get to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. All right, then if there's nothing more, I'll,
I move we adjourn.
there we go. Any, all in favor, say aye.
I,
Right.
Thank you very
All right.
much.
I
Taking
see,
over.
I see your voices.
Great.
Goodbye. We'll see you next month or
Night,
hopefully
everyone.
somewhere in between.
Have a pleasant Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you as well. Bye-bye.
take care all.